The morning I found a neon orange violation stuck to my windshield, I laughed until I realized it wasn't a prank. It was from the HOA. The reason? Vehicle does not meet community aesthetic standards. Yeah, they were talking about my Nissan GTR. What they didn't know, what she didn't know, was that I owned the luxury dealership where she leased her car, and she was about to find that out the hard way. Let me back up a bit. I live in this overly polished neighborhood called Willow Ridge. It's the kind of place where lawns are surgically trimmed and the HOA president thinks she's royalty. Her name's Valerie Knox. Perfect hair, perfect teeth, perfectly unbearable. That morning, she was standing across the street, arms folded, watching me like a hawk that had just spotted a mouse on the sidewalk. "We have standards here," she said with this fake, sugary voice that made my skin crawl. I looked at the paper, then at my GTR. I'd restored that car myself. Sure, it wasn't brand new, but it was clean. It ran like a dream, and it was a piece of automotive history. But to Valerie, it might as well have been an oil-stained mattress left on the curb. She smirked and tossed out, "Maybe if you could afford a real car, you wouldn't lower property values." I swear I heard a couple neighbors gasp. I didn't say a word. I knew her type. Valerie got off on power plays. If you gave her a reaction, it just fed the beast. So I smiled and walked inside, feeling her stare drill into my back like a mosquito bite you can't reach. That was only the beginning. A week later, I got another notice. This time certified mail. Same nonsense, but now with daily fines if I didn't comply. The kicker? She'd included a grainy photo of my GTR parked neatly in my driveway, like it was some criminal caught in the act. Then came the HOA newsletter, complete with a blurb about unsightly vehicles and a stock photo of a rusted-out junker that looked nothing like my car. But I got the message. Valerie was coming for me. And I had a choice, roll over or teach her a lesson she wouldn't forget. Here's what she didn't know. First, I didn't rent. I owned my home outright. Second, my GTR. Fully paid off, custom restored, worth more than her obnoxious white SUV. And third, and this is where it gets good, I'm the owner of 3 car dealerships in the city, including the luxury one where Valerie leases her status symbol, but I wasn't going to swing the hammer just yet. She needed to build her own gallows. Then came the emergency HOA meeting. Valerie taped notices to every mailbox like it was DEFCON 1. The issue? Community standards violations. Translation: me. I showed up just to see the circus. She stood at the podium, clicker in hand, lights dimmed. And right on cue, a blown-up, zoomed-in photo of my GTR lit up the screen behind her. I actually laughed out loud. Valerie, totally unfazed, launched into a dramatic monologue about visual blight and threats to neighborhood prestige. Her voice shook with this fake concern, like she was describing an oil spill, not a car. Then she dropped the bomb, a proposed amendment. No vehicles over 10 years old, unless approved by the HOA board. Meaning her. It was so petty I almost applauded. I raised my hand. "Who decides what's aesthetic?" I asked. She smiled like a crocodile. "The board, by majority vote." The room shifted. Tom, a retired Navy vet, spoke up. "Are we seriously going to tell people what they can drive now?" Valerie tried to brush it off. "We're protecting our investments." Sarah, another neighbor, added, "So my son's Jeep isn't allowed? It's his pride and joy." Valerie snapped. "If it's an eyesore, then no." That's when I realized this wasn't just about me anymore. She was trying to turn the whole community into her personal Barbie dream house. 2 days later, I found a bright yellow tow notice zip-tied to my mirror. A company I personally know, because I've used them for repos. She had no legal basis, no new rules, no vote. But she figured she could bluff me into submission. Big mistake. I made one call. That same tow company was informed that touching my car would count as grand theft auto. They backed off faster than a cat from a sprinkler. But Valerie? She doubled down, blasted me on the neighborhood app, accused me of disrespecting the community, even reposted that same trash photo of my car. Only this time the comments didn't go her way. That's a GTR, Karen. I mean, Valerie. Looks better than your suburban yacht. Bet it could smoke your SUV without even trying. Tom chimed in with, I'd take that GTR into battle. I was enjoying the show. Valerie? Not so much. Then one evening she came to my door with her little entourage from the board, David and Joyce, who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. We need to talk about your vehicle, she said, straight to business. Of course, I said. Come in. I served them coffee. Valerie launched into her final threat. Fines of $100 per day, liens on my house if unpaid, potential legal escalation. I smiled. Well, before we go any further, you should probably see this. I pulled out a leather folder and opened it slowly on the table. Inside, proof of ownership for 3 dealerships, including hers. Also inside, her lease agreement, and a clause that allowed for review or early termination in cases involving community disputes or damage to public image. Her face went pale. David raised an eyebrow. Joyce blinked like she was seeing sunlight for the first time. I leaned in, all casual. You know your lease is up in 4 months, right? And I personally approve renewals for high-profile clients. Silence. Valerie's mouth opened, but nothing came out. I closed the folder gently. We also reserve the right to deny renewals to clients deemed problematic. She stood up like a robot. This changes nothing. Sure, I said, but paperwork works both ways. They left, but the war wasn't over. Valerie tried everything. Anonymous BBB complaints, fake 1-star reviews, even marched into my dealership and caused a meltdown in the showroom, screamed about lemons, crooked salesmen, media exposure. It was like watching a soap opera live. Security escorted her out. And yeah, customers filmed the whole thing. Within days, a clip titled Crazy HOA Karen Melts Down at Dealership went viral. The internet dragged her. Memes, parodies, TikToks, she became a joke. And as the videos spread, the HOA got involved. Her proposed amendment failed. Badly. Her own board turned on her. David called a vote. She was suspended pending investigation. Joyce? She dropped her like dead weight. The final blow? A community town hall. Valerie tried to spin a sob story about persecution. I stood up, calm voice, folder in hand. I listed every violation, every abuse, every threat. Then I held up her lease. Terminated. Effective immediately. The room erupted. She tripped leaving, dropped her purse. Expired dealership vouchers spilled across the floor. Phones captured every second. Days later, her white SUV was gone, repossessed. And I roped off the GTR at a local car show with a sign. Not HOA approved. Still priceless. Valerie tried to move. No buyers. The internet followed her. Her reputation ruined. Her power gone. Her SUV auctioned off to fund a playground. Funny how the woman who judged me for owning a cheap car ended up driving a dented sedan into oblivion. So, who really lost? Justice or just revenge?